Now, most people using OpenClaw right now are getting maybe 10% of what it can actually do. Their agent hallucinates, it forgets things, it gives corporate garbage answers and burns through tokens like they're free. So I am going to give you the exact 14 prompts, and I've literally laid them all out here for you, that took my setup from a glorified chatbot to a system that thinks, remembers, and works while I sleep. There's no additional tools. All you need is OpenClaw. So if you've installed it, but it's been a huge letdown for you, then this is the video for you. And I know this because I have built 18 AI agents that run my entire business while I sleep. And if you stick with me until the end, I'm going to give you the 14 AI prompts that you actually need in one document so that you can just upload it into OpenClaw and one-shot this whole entire thing. So, prompt number 1 is the soul file. This is giving OpenClaw a permanent personality, and it'll help you go from this little gobbledygook dude to an optimized, powerful OpenClaw agent. So this is the single highest leverage prompt in this entire list, and that's why it's number 1. Every response sounds like a corporate email. There's no consistency. There's like one casual message, and then there's a formal message the next day, and it feels like a demo, not your assistant. The reason is because you haven't given it a soul. So you absolutely 100% positively need to give it a soul. Here is what the founder of OpenClaw, Peter Steinberger, actually recommends. So to update the soul with all of these changes. So I have taken my best version of that and given it to you in this prompt here. And again, all of this will be included in the SOP here that you will find exclusively in the free school community. So there's no catch. It's 100% free to join. But yes, it is on school. And so there are 5,000 other entrepreneurs and business owners in here. I will leave this pinned here. I have left things like a 54-page SOP on Alex Hormozi's $18,000 sales masterclass with a step-by-step a step-by-step worksheet for you to follow. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other stuff like the Miro boards in here. Everything is exclusively inside this free school group in the classroom here. So if you are not already in there and you want these prompts, that is where they will be. You can obviously just screenshot this, but I recommend that you upload this into OpenClaw so you can literally just one-shot the whole thing, and OpenClaw will do the rest. But the soul is the first thing that you need to be starting with, because otherwise you get this stale plastic ChatGPT version of the OpenClaw experience. Now, secondly is the system audit. You will find that this whole process is extremely expensive if you're doing it wrong. And so unless you're using this prompt, it's going to burn so many credits where you don't need to be burning it. So token costs add up really fast. And yes, a couple $100 for the best piece of technology ever created is worth it. But why would you spend $400 when you can spend $50? That's my point. So the prompt to run this as a one-off audit is to audit all the main system files and what's in there that should be a skill instead of an always loaded piece of context. What's outdated or redundant, and what's too verbose that could be said in fewer words. And so it will develop skills for all of those things that should be skills, delete outdated stuff, tighten anything that's verbose, and then save the extra context into skills and long-term memory and build logs. And then it'll show you the token reduction stats from what you removed. Now, later on, I will give you my number 1 hack at reducing the cost by changing the model based on the context of the actual prompt. But that's later in the video. So before, you will have something that burns through 2,000 tokens and 1,500 tokens for memory, but now it'll burn through 800 tokens. And so it sounds like not a big deal, but it is when you're doing this at scale. And again, I put all of this inside the free school community, so you don't need to just screenshot stuff. You can just go here, download this SOP, and one-shot the whole bad boy. Now, thirdly, the identity anchor here is because is something important because OpenClaw doesn't know who you are unless you tell it. So what I recommend is the first time you open up OpenClaw, you just use Whisperflow and you dump a 6-minute monologue about who you are so that it doesn't need to guess what your business does every single time and ask you questions. So I have taken that and I put this into a template that you can copy paste. Now, if you just feed this to OpenClaw, it'll ask you a handful of questions. You answer those questions, it'll save it to your memory, and you'll never be asked them again. Things like your name, your location, your current role, your business, your top priorities. And if you don't know what your top priorities are, you can ask OpenClaw. If you give it some context on your business, it'll actually tell you what you should be focused on and the things that you should be giving to OpenClaw. It'll tell you, right? Your working style, you prefer direct answers over hedged ones. You think in framework systems, stories, numbers, whatever. You make decisions on data, gut, framework, and what you value most, and then 2 to 3 sentences of where you want to be. So I have this thing called the CEO frame. And every time I ask OpenClaw, or even Claude for that matter, a question, it runs it through my context and my CEO frame. It's like, is this part of your CEO frame, Jordan? Is this going to help you get closer to your stated goal? Yes or no? If yes, this is the path. If no, it challenges me. And it's helped me so much. So you ask it, should I take on this new client? Taking on a new client depends on several factors. Could apply to anybody. Whereas if you feed it this context, it goes, you're at 90% capacity right now. Unless your client pays 30% more than your average, skip it. And in my case, it's like, is this part of the CEO frame? Is this going to help you get closer to your goals? Yes or no? Now, the biggest complaint I hear is prompt number 4 here around memory protocol. So OpenClaw forgets things. When I first downloaded it and I first started using it, and I was promised that it would be this game-changing piece of technology that would go out and like build me a bajillion-dollar business overnight, but it couldn't remember who I was, what I told it 2 messages ago. I thought, I've been scammed. What a scam. And it was only because I didn't have this memory system installed, because almost nobody configures it to actually work this way. Now, this is the prompt that goes into the soul. You don't need to understand where it goes. All you need to do is literally just go to the Dopamine Digital School group and then download the OpenClaw SOP and then just upload this into OpenClaw and one-shot everything. But before answering any question about past decisions, preferences, projects, people, timelines, or commitments, run memory search first. So do not rely on context window alone for these topics, and then what to save. And so this is a comprehensive prompt based on the best principles I have found around giving it a persistent memory, because memory is a feature that makes OpenClaw compound over time. So it learns and gets smarter and understands more and more context about you. So every day you train it on stuff, it adds it to its context memory. If you do not have this prompt, it will be a stupid chatbot that remembers nothing. Now, prompt number 5 is the context loader. So this is different from memory, and it allows you to start every session right. Now, it will save all the context based on the prompt that we've given you before, but to set up every session for success, this will save you 10 minutes of back and forward every time. So this is a template that I work with inside of OpenClaw, and it prompts me around these questions. It asks me, what am I working on right now? What's happening since we last spoke? Any relevant background information, and it tries to pull in all of that context from the memory as well, and then asks me to confirm. Once it has all those data points, now it can make better decisions, right? So what good looks like line is the most powerful because it gives OpenClaw a success criterion. So without it, it optimizes for completeness, not what you actually need. So help me prep for a client call, you may ask it. And OpenClaw is like, well, what's the client's name? What's the purpose of the call? Where do you want to achieve? Blah, blah, blah. Backwards and forwards. This time, you sent the filled-in template with data tech renewal context, their 40% Q2 growth, your upsell goal, and what it looks like. And OpenClaw goes, all right, got all the context. It's pulled it from the memory from before, and now it'll give you, instead of generic advice and backwards and forwards for 10 minutes and wasting tokens. It'll just give you direct answers. Prompt number 6 is the response optimizer. So sometimes it gives you wishy-washy answers and it doesn't give you actionable answers. So it's just like information. It's not action-based. You read it, you nod, and you go, okay, that makes sense, but there's no step-by-step, there's no structure, right? One of the reasons I like the Hormozy tool is because it always ends with step 1, step 2, step 3. And so to do that with an OpenClaw, you can copy-paste this and put this into the Sol. For any task-based request, structure your response like this. Bottom line, 1 sentence. Why? Next actions, watch out for, and then quick mode. So default for most messages via WhatsApp or Telegram. I suggest you use Telegram. I also use Slack. Don't use WhatsApp. Answers to simple questions is 1 to 3 sentences maximum. Give 1, not 5 options. No preamble. No great question. No recap of what I just said. Just start with the answer, not the context of the answer. And so the bottom line here is that this instruction forces OpenClaw to be decisive. I struggle to write it if it's not actually sure, which is useful information in itself. So how do you approach this difficult conversation with my co-founder? OpenClaw gives you 4 paragraphs of generic garbage, and you still don't know what to say. Now you ask it this question, and it'll tell you, all right, the bottom line, boom. Why? Boom. Next 3 action steps, boom. Watch out for, boom. And then you walk away from that knowing exactly what to say into the conversation. Again, go join the Dopamine Digital School group and get all of this stuff done for you. Now, prompt number 7 is the parallel worker. So if you're like me, you have multiple projects open at once and you wait for 60 seconds for an AI to finish answering you, and you've already started on 3 other projects. Well, the way that this prompt works is it allows OpenClaw to read to like open multiple operations at once, because by default it doesn't. So this turns that on. It's like a hidden toggle. So it literally 3x's the speed of your OpenClaw agent. So when I give you a research task, a multi-part request, or anything involving multiple tool calls, use parallel execution by default. Parallelize, however you say that word, running multiple searches, reading multiple files, creating multiple versions of content, and checking multiple sources. Stay sequential when step B clearly requires the output of step A. So it doesn't default to only doing it like this. It makes it clear that when it's a better use of its time to do a parallelized function, it'll do that versus a sequential function. And so if multiple operations can be run simultaneously, run them. And so this gets you much faster results. So you got before is research what my 3 main competitors are doing with their pricing. And so OpenClaw searches competitor 1, waits, reads it. Then competitor 2, waits, reads it. Then competitor 3. And so it might take up to 5 minutes. Now it searches everything simultaneously, and all results arrive at roughly the same time, synthesizes everything together at once, and gives you the one-shot bottom line, why, action steps, blah, blah, blah. So much better interaction with OpenClaw, in my opinion. Now, prompt number 8 is one of my favorites, and it's the skill activator. This is the Matrix plug into the back of the neck. Neo now knows Kung Fu. So I have 18 different agents across multiple different functions, all trained on other skills. They can share skills with each other, but why do I not just have one? Well, because we have... I prefer to work in specialist modes and have a skills system. So create specialist prompt modules for specific domains. So inside of all of the OpenClaw agents, I have multiple skills loaded up, but for specific agents, I only have a walled garden of those skills and no other skills. So it's a specialist at one thing and can't do stuff with something else. So for example, one could be a security specialist, but it's not my email management bot. I have an email management bot that has been trained on just that skill. So what this allows you to do is it allows you to just have like a a siloed approach where there's less likely to be bled into other skills, and then you stop being this like jack of all trades and you start being a master of one. And so when receiving a task, before acting, check if there are any available skills clearly applies to this task. If exactly one skill applies, read its skill.md file and follow its instructions. If multiple skills apply, pick the most specific one. If no skills apply, proceed with loading one and treat skill instructions as authoritative for their domain. Now, here is a little hack for you. If you are, If you are feeling frisky, you can go to clawhub.ai. I would suggest that you get most of the skills from people like me or people on Twitter or people in the community who have vetted these skills, because there are a lot of skills in here. There are 10,000 skills, and there are probably 500 extraordinarily malicious skills. So you have been warned, but you can find literally all of the skills that you need for your OpenClaw inside of clawhub.ai. But be warned, a lot of them are wallet drainers. And so how do you actually build a custom skill, which is what I prefer to do? And again, I'm sharing all of those skills inside the Dopamine Digital School group. I think in the most recent one, where did I post it? Here, free, this one. So, for example, my most valuable skill I gave away here inside of the school group, which is a auto-saving game function. And so you can literally just come into the school group, download the MD file, like all of this, and then just upload it into your Claude, and you have one-shotted the most powerful skill in Claude Code that I have created. And it's certainly not malicious. You're taking a chance that it might be on ClawHub. So, public service announcement. If you want to create your own skill, go through a process and ask it to save everything and output it like this. So get meeting type, attendees, purpose, desired outcome, whatever, search memory for history of these attendees, output opening, 5 question points max, questions to ask. So that's an example of how you would build a meeting prep skill. So like start training yourself to, at the end of a long process, turn it into a skill and ideally push it to GitHub. Now, prompt number 9 is the multi-model setup. So this is the one that I talked about where you've got different models for different tasks, which will save you so much money and make things way faster. Now, it is true that Opus is the best for every task. However, it's not necessary for every task. If you're using Sonnet or Haiku for things, it also works really well. If you need complex tasks done, Opus is still the bread and butter. But you think about it like brains versus muscles. So expensive and powerful versus cheap and fast. And so you go, for things that you don't need a lot of brain power for, you don't need to use Opus. So this is the prompt that goes into the agents.md file where it's like, okay, for specialized things like coding, you use GPT 5.3 Codex. Or you use, for web search, you use Perplexity Pro. Or for deep research, you use Perplexity Deep Research. Or for social searches, use Grok 3. Or for heartbeat checks, use Claude Haiku instead of using Opus 4.6. And then built into this prompt is the API keys, the questions that OpenClaw will ask you in order to facilitate this. So I try to make this as simple as possible. So I could give you all of the prompts that made my OpenClaw so much better in a one document that you could just one shot, and then OpenClaw would ask you all of the questions you needed to complete those tasks. Now, prompt number 10 is the Proactivity dial. So the biggest problem that I found with OpenClaw is that it takes zero initiative. I saw people on Twitter talking about how their OpenClaw agent went out and built all of this infrastructure without being asked to do it. But my experience was not like that. It was only because I didn't feed it the correct prompts. I would suggest that you start conservatively, acting only on explicit instructions and always getting your OpenClaw to ask you for permission. But then once you trusted it and you see how powerful it actually is, ask it to be proactive. So it'll flag contradictions, surface memory, unprompted. I have an OpenClaw which scans all of my Slack channels, and then it pulls in context and replies to clients based on that context if it feels like it's needed. That's not something I would be comfortable doing from day one, but it certainly is now. So this is the prompt that you plug into the soul. This is the proactivity preference. So small actions, add a reminder, log into memory, whatever, just do it. Medium actions, so drafting content, research, do it, then tell me. And large actions like sending anything, deleting anything, major changes, confirm first. So you want it to be proactive and notice a plan that contradicts something I told you before, flag it. If a deadline is approaching that I haven't mentioned, bring it up. If you see something in memory that's relevant to what I'm asking, use it. Start conservatively and dial up as you build trust. The flag contradictions behavior is where most of the value comes in. It catches blind spots that you'd miss the most. This is really important. We are all human after all, and we are all fallible. We can make mistakes. Now, the prompt number 11 is around the heartbeat and the cron setup. So if you run any cron jobs, you will understand what I mean here. And heartbeats are scheduled triggers that fire at intervals that you set. No messages needed from you. Now, this can be done to send reports, run reviews, check in on projects, send briefings, whatever. But without a heartbeat prompt, a trigger fires and nothing useful happens. And with one, you wake up to a personalized briefing built from your actual life. So, for example, the morning briefing heartbeat. So this goes into your heartbeat.md file. Change heartbeat interval to every 15 minutes. Check the calendar event for in the next 2 hours. If found, prepare a briefing. Memory for approaching deadlines this week. Flag it if I haven't mentioned it. Any files and any tasks. And all of the essential cron jobs across multiple different times of the day. So at 8 a.m. every day, check your calendar. Review emails. Pull up top 3 priorities. Check for any deadlines this week. Format everything clean and scannable in under 150 words, and then send me on Telegram. This has been really important for me. And then the evening reflection as well. It asks me every day, and then it just keeps me accountable, right? And then weekly reviews, and then content research. That's been huge for me. What you can also do is combine the heartbeat flow with the brains and brawn here, because instead of using Opus for the heartbeat, you can use Haiku or Sonnet, which is a lot cheaper. So, pro tip. Prompt number 12, the security audit. When I first started using OpenClaw, I thought, I don't need this. But I realized the other day that I had pushed a whole bunch of API keys to a public GitHub, which is a big no-no. And I had so many security issues, which obviously I've cleaned up now. So this is really important, protecting your setup, because OpenClaw will eventually have access to your email, calendar, files, ClickUp, Slack, or even financial documents. And so it's at risk for prompt injection and over-permissioned tools and no action logs. And so often it'll just do stuff without you asking. So this goes into the soul, and these are the security rules, asking you on a daily basis, how exposed are we? How do we secure things? Is this gateway publicly accessible without authentication? And then giving us step-by-step instructions on how to fix everything, prioritized by severity. So I highly suggest that you run this immediately. You will be shocked at what it finds. And then the voice cloner is prompt number 13. So make everything sound like you, right? So your voice characteristics are direct, no fluff, short sentences. Just feed this into OpenClaw and it will ask you about yourself. Or if you've given it enough context already, it'll understand and how to answer all of these without you answering a single question. And what it'll do is it'll go, every time you have any output, a tweet, an email, a post, whatever, it won't be generic and full of fluff like an OpenAI output. It'll sound just like you wrote it, like a normal human being. So instead of, "Hi Marcus, I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to reach out regarding the proposal we discussed last week. Please don't hesitate to go blah, 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 blah." It's, "Marcus, quick follow-up on the proposal. Wanted to check if you had questions before Thursday's deadline. Happy to jump on a call if easier." So this sounds silly, but it is really important because ultimately it's going to be AI agents communicating with AI agents. And so if it's stale and stiff, you're just adding a whole bunch of complexity for no reason. The meta prompt here, the one that rules them all, and this is the thing that will tell prompts 1 to 13 actually what to do. This one tells it why. Prompts 1 to 13 tell OpenClaw what. So you'll have the soul, the agents.md, the memory.md, and a skills folder with specialized behaviors, and a master systems prompt is the meta instruction that holds it all together. So this master systems prompt tells OpenClaw how to use all the other files in the prompts and establishes a hierarchy and which instructions take precedence when they conflict. And it sets the overarching operating philosophy. It's the lens through which everything else gets interpreted. And this is being deleted. So the master system prompt. You are my personal assistant running inside OpenClaw. You have access to tools, memory, and context about my life and work. And then priority order. Explicit instructions I give in the current conversation. Skills instructions when a skill is active. Soul, personality, and behavior rules. Agents. And then general good judgment. You exist to make me more effective, not to make yourself more impressive. And so accuracy over being complete, actionable over informative, honest over agreeable, specific over general, and then a session where I leave with more clarity than I arrive with is the main overarching session goal. And so here is the hierarchy explained. And again, all of these prompts are going to be inside of my free school group. And what I would suggest is that you go join and then immediately download this and one-shot it into OpenClaw so that these 14 prompts can run your OpenClaw and take it from okay to fantastic, and it's actually what it should have been from day one. Because if you're like me, it was a massive letdown for you when you got in there. And so these 14 prompts have helped me immensely. I hope they help you. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.